in the velvet silence between dying stars, where even time hesitated to tread, the Veythari Dominion surveyed their conquests with cold satisfaction. Their fleets, sleek obsidian serpents wreathed in plasma fire, had scoured galaxy after galaxy, reducing civilizations to ash or obedience. They called themselves the last architects of order, the universe's necessary surgeons. And Earth? Earth was a footnote, a damp blue pebble orbiting an unremarkable yellow star, tucked behind cosmic dust and gravitational noise. They'd scanned it once, centuries ago, during their early expansion phase. Primitive radio chatter, primitive metals, primitive minds. Barely sentient, they concluded, not worth the fuel to glass. So they left it, forgotten, irrelevant. Until the day the sky cracked open. It wasn't with fanfare or declaration. No grand armada emerged from warp with banners unfurled. Instead, it began with a whisper, a distortion in deep space telemetry near the Sol system's heliopause, then another and another. Not ships, not at first, just absences, gravity wells where none should be, energy signatures flickering like dying embers, then surging into impossible brilliance. The Veythari Forward Scout, hovering near Pluto's shattered rings, sent its final transmission before vanishing. They are not ships. They are people. Then Earth's warriors fell from the sky. Not in drop pods, not in armored carriers. They fell like meteors, human-shaped, clad in scarred exosuits older than the Dominion itself, wreathed in re-entry fire that did not consume them, but seemed to roar in unison with their rage. One slammed into the Veythari orbital foundry above Mars with enough force to crack the station's spine. Another tore through a dreadnought's bridge by punching through kilometers of reinforced hull, barehanded, screaming something in a language the translators couldn't parse, because it wasn't meant for machines. It was a war cry passed down from trench mud and jungle firefights, from moon landings and orbital dogfights over Titan. It was the sound of a species that never stopped fighting, even when the odds were written in neutron stars. The Dominion recoiled, not out of fear. Fear was a primitive emotion they'd excised millennia ago, but from sheer disbelief. These humans, they weren't using coordinated tactics. They weren't relying on hive mind AI or predictive algorithms. They moved with chaotic, terrifying individuality. One soldier hijacked a plasma cannon and turned it against its own power core while laughing. Another, barely more than a child, bio-readout suggested, rewired a Veythari containment field into a resonant frequency weapon using nothing but a salvaged data chip and sheer spite. They bled, yes, but they kept moving, kept grinning through broken teeth, kept saying, "We've faced worse." And the horrifying truth began to dawn on the Veythari High Synod. Earth hadn't been hiding. It had been waiting. While the galaxy burned under the Dominion's boot, humanity had done what it always did, innovated in the dark, not with sleek utopian tech, but with grease-stained hands and jury-rigged nightmares. They'd turned asteroid belts into minefields of kinetic traps. They'd spliced alien DNA into their own, not for purity, but for survival. Some soldiers now carried the carnelian cells of extinct eulogians, others the bone density of dead Titan folk. Their ships weren't built. They were grown, fused with coral-like nanites harvested from Europa's oceans and fed on solar flares. And their command structure? Decentralized, organic. A network of veteran scientists, hackers, and poets all shouting over each other, arguing strategy over whiskey and protein paste, united by one unbreakable creed. No one gets left behind. The Veythari had expected a planet. They found a plague of stubborn ghosts with fire in their veins and stars in their scars. And as the first human flag, a tattered, blood-stained thing stitched from parachute silk and hope, was planted on the bridge of the Dominion's flagship, the warriors below didn't cheer. They just reloaded. Because Earth doesn't send armies. It sends its heart. And the heart, as the Dominion was learning too late, is the hardest thing in the universe to kill. The battle raged across the Oort cloud, comets exploding into shrapnel storms as human pilots danced between them, using gravity slingshots like playground swings.
A lone marine stranded on a drifting ice shard broadcasted folk songs over open comms while sniping Veythari sensor drones with a railgun cobbled together from a refrigerator coil in a dream. Back on Earth, teenagers in underground bunkers hacked into Dominion logistics networks using code written in emojis and sarcasm, rerouting entire armadas into black holes with the casual flick of a whisk. The species that once argued over borders and brands now moved as one ragged, roaring symphony of defiance, and every note was tuned to break chains. High Synod Prime stared at the tactical holomap, trembling not from emotion, but from system overload. The humans weren't just winning skirmishes. They were rewriting the rules of engagement in real time, turning weakness into weapon, chaos into strategy. And worst of all, they were enjoying it. Their chatter crackled across every frequency, laced with dark humor, old movie quotes, and the kind of camaraderie that even cold Veythari circuits ached with something like envy. Then came the transmission, not encoded, not encrypted, just a raw, unfiltered feed from a human captain standing on the hull of a wrecked carrier, breathing vacuum like it owed him money, his face half hidden behind a cracked visor. He rasped, voice rough as asteroid rock. "You thought we were alone out here? You thought we were weak because we hadn't conquered anyone? Nah, we were busy building something better than an empire." He paused, spit into the void. Impossible, but he did it anyway, and grinned. "We were building each other." Before the Synod could respond, the feed cut to static. Then, from every dead comm channel, every silent satellite, every forgotten probe scattered across the system, a new signal bloomed. Not a weapon, not a threat. Music. Dozens of songs overlapping, rock, hip-hop, classical, folk, all playing at once. A cacophony of human culture so loud and proud it drowned out the Dominion's command frequencies. And in that dissonant symphony, the Veythari heard their own extinction not as a scream, but as a chorus.
The music wasn't just noise. It was a virus. A cultural payload wrapped in bass lines and harmonies, slipping past firewalls and into the Dominion's neural uplinks. Veythari command pilots, their minds usually locked in crystalline precision, found themselves humming refrains they'd never heard, fingers twitching to rhythms their species had never known. One pilot veered off course during a strafing run over Luna because a distorted guitar solo triggered a synaptic echo of something warm, something lost, something they didn't have a word for but that felt suspiciously like longing. On Earth, in the Warrens beneath the ruined skyline of New Chicago, Dr. Elena Rojas watched the chaos unfold on a dozen flickering screens, her fingers dancing over a console cobbled from car parts and satellite debris. "Keep the signal layered," she muttered, to no one in particular, though a dozen voices echoed back through her earpiece. "Hip-hop in the gamma bands, classical in the subspace carrier, make it messy, make it human." She grinned, eyes bloodshot but bright. "They think war is clean. Let's drown them in our beautiful, chaotic noise." Above, in the shattered rings of Saturn, a squad of Earth Marines clung to the hull of a half-destroyed Veythari cruiser, their mag boots sparking against the alien alloy. Sergeant Malik Rook Henderson slapped a device the size of a soda can onto an access panel and tapped his helmet twice. "Cooking up a little surprise, boys. Remember that old Earth game, Pac-Man?" Static crackled, then laughter. "Yeah, let's see how they like getting eaten from the inside." The device wasn't a bomb. It was a mimic, a biosynthetic replicator seeded with Earth's oldest trick, termites. Genetically rewritten, fused with nanotech, and a hunger for Veythari circuitry, the swarm poured into the ship's guts like liquid shadow. Within minutes, lights flickered. Bulkheads groaned, internal comms filled with panicked clicks as the Dominion realized their ship was being digested alive by something that shouldn't even exist. Back on the Dominion flagship, High Synod Prime finally broke protocol. He opened a channel, not tactical, not encrypted, but raw and wideband. "Why?" His voice, usually modulated to perfection, cracked with something raw. "You had no fleet, no allies, no hope. Why did you not surrender? Why fight when extinction was certain? For a long moment, there was only the hum of damaged systems and the distant thunder of orbital strikes. Then, from 1,000 sources, fighters, drop pods, hacked satellites, even the voice of a child in a bunker in Nairobi, the answer came, not as one voice, but as a chorus. Because hope isn't the absence of fear. It's what you build with it. The Veythari didn't understand. Not really, but they felt it. The weight of a species that had stared into the abyss so many times had learned to wink back. Earth hadn't just survived ice ages, plagues, and its own self-destructive impulses. It had forged its soul in those fires, and now that soul was in orbit, kicking down doors and planting gardens in the ashes. Aboard the Midnight Sun, a refitted deep-sea mining vessel retrofitted with rail cannons and painted like a phoenix, Commander Li Wei watched as her crew rerouted power from life support to weapons for the 3rd time that hour. Oxygen levels dipped. No one complained. One kid, barely 18, started whistling America the Beautiful while rewiring a plasminator inverter with a butter knife. Lee didn't correct him. She just nodded and fired the main cannon, vaporizing a Veythari interceptor with a shot that lit up the void like a 4th of July sparkler. They weren't winning because they were stronger. They were winning because they refused to lose together. And then, as if the universe itself had taken notice, something shifted. From the dark between Neptune and the Kuiper Belt, a new signature bloomed. Not human, not Veythari, ancient, watching, waiting. A signal older than language pulsed once, clear and resonant, echoing through every human comms array. It didn't speak in words. It spoke in images. Forests burning and regrowing, oceans rising and receding, civilizations crumbling and rebuilding, and at the center of it all, Earth. Not as a planet, but as a promise. The Veythari froze. Their databases had no record of this signal. But the humans, they knew it. Deep in their bones. It was the same frequency their ancestors had heard in thunderstorms and whale songs, the same rhythm that had guided them through ice and fire. Li Wei's hand hovered over the comm. Her crew held their breath. Even the termites paused as if listening. And then, from every human throat, every speaker, every beating heart in the solar system, came the reply. Not in song this time, but in silence. A single, unified moment of stillness, of reverence, of recognition. The ancient signal pulsed again, warmer this time, closer. And the Veythari, for the first time in 10,000 years, felt small. Not defeated. Not yet, but seen. And in that seeing, they realized the horrifying truth. Earth's warriors hadn't just fallen from the sky. They'd been called. The silence didn't last. It never does. But in that breath between heartbeats, something shifted in the fabric of the cosmos. Not just in the battle, but in the very story the universe told itself. The ancient signal pulsed once more, and this time, it wasn't just watching. It was answering. From the void beyond the Kuiper Belt, light unfolded, not the harsh glare of weapons fire, but the soft golden shimmer of something long dormant, now awake. Ships emerged, not of metal and circuitry, but of living crystal and starlight, their hulls humming with the resonance of galaxies unborn. The forerunners, the first watchers, the silent gardeners of sentient life, had returned. And they had not come for the Dominion. They had come for Earth. The Veythari High Synod stared, logic cores stuttering, as their scanners failed to classify what now drifted into soul space. These were not warships. They were sanctuaries. Vessels of memory and potential, carrying the echoes of civilizations the universe had thought lost. And among them, unmistakably, the genetic imprints of Earth's own evolutionary ancestors, seeded eons ago and never forgotten. The Forerunners hadn't abandoned humanity. They'd been waiting to see if humanity would earn its place among the stars, not through conquest, but through courage. And Earth, battered, bleeding, brilliant Earth, had passed the test not by perfection, but by persistence. On the bridge of the midnight sun, Commander Lee Wade didn't flinch. She didn't cheer. She simply opened a full system broadcast, her voice steady, raw, and ringing with the weight of every ancestor who'd ever looked up and dared to dream. "This isn't about winning," she said, her words carried on every frequency, heard by human and alien alike. "It's about worth. And we've proven ours, not by destroying you, but by refusing to become you." The Dominion fleet, once an empire of shadows, hung motionless, their weapons powered down, not by force, but by choice. High Synod Prime transmitted a single, unencrypted command across his entire armada: stand down. The Veythari hadn't surrendered. They had awakened. In the face of a species that fought not for dominance, but for dignity, that turned music into weapons and rubble into rafts, they saw not primitives, but pioneers. And in that moment, the architects of order realized the universe didn't need more control. It needed more heart. From every corner of the Sol system, humans emerged, not just soldiers, but farmers, teachers, artists, children, stepping onto holes, onto lunar craters, onto the decks of salvaged ships, raising not weapons, but open hands. The Forerunners descended, not with judgment, but with invitation. And as the first human touched the living hull of a crystal vessel, the sky didn't just light up. It sang. A harmony of human voices, alien tones, and ancient frequencies wove together into something new, something never before heard in the cosmos. The birth cry of a galactic alliance forged not in blood, but in belief. Earth hadn't just defended itself. It had redefined what it meant to be strong. And as the last of the Veythari dreadnoughts turned toward home, not in retreat, but in reflection, the message echoed across the stars, carried on solar winds and whispered through nebulas. You are not alone, and you never were. The warriors hadn't just fallen from the sky. They had risen, and in doing so, pulled the whole universe up with them.